Hello, welcome back. This is week 8 of the Beethoven series, a 3-month series where I teach myself a violin concerto, in this case, the Beethoven Violin Concerto. We're coming into the final month of this project. I am so aware that there are just a few weeks left. That means just a few videos left, but also there are a number of pages left. So I've got my work cut out for me. Now this week, we're gonna start out with 2 pages of the rondo. After I play through this week's music, I'm gonna be doing a very brief mid-project check-in. And I have 3 really useful practice tips that I wanted to share. They're more about perspective and managing expectations when you're taking on a lot. Also, after the music, I'm going to talk through specific goals I have for this week's music. If you're wondering what happened to the second movement and the end of the first, well, here's what's happening. So the full cadenza plus the end of the first movement, that's going to be coming at the very end of the series. I've already played most of the cadenza for you, but I'm now going to give it some time for me to practice it, work on the things I talked about in last week's video, and then by the end of the month, hopefully have a really beautiful cadenza for you, and then also play the rest of the first movement. The second movement I have started working on, but I'm not going to be playing that for you today. I want to give it a little more time to kind of season. I guess I also want to get better at the shifts and stuff, and I'll be playing some of the second movement for you next week in addition to more of the third movement. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, and I hit a wall 2 weeks ago when I was working really hard at the cadenza, trying to record it after playing it for about 2 weeks. And it really frustrated me, and I felt pretty burned out. I did a number of takes and I sort of hated them all, and it was super frustrating, and I had to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate. It was also a really good time to do that because it was about halfway through the project. I eventually came away from that weekend with 3 really awesome points that I want to share with you and I want to remind myself of today. These are 3 ways of approaching how I'm practicing and how I'm taking on this project that I think I'm going to carry with me into future projects and future concertos. So the 3 points are briefly: number 1, be reasonable; number 2, be intentional; and number 3, loosen up and have some fun. So the first one, be reasonable. This one I actually think could be emphasized a lot more in the music community. I think that as artists and musicians, there's a really strong push to just do stuff regardless of what the preparation has looked like, or really like what your life outside of that has looked like. There's a real push to just go ahead and be perfect and to not have any mistakes. And if you do have mistakes, to not show them to people. And that's just really unrealistic, and I think it's pretty unreasonable. Most of us are in a process of learning and growing, and that means messing up too. So a few things, and I wrote stuff down so that I would be, ADHD, so I would remember this and hopefully be organized for you listening. So a couple things that I wrote down as part of being reasonable were: 1, have I gotten enough sleep? 2, have I put in enough practice time to justify the expectations I have for this? If I want this cadenza to be perfect, and I've been playing it for 2 weeks for maybe 20 to 60 minutes a day, is it realistic for that to be 2 weeks in a perfect cadenza? Also, side note, what is perfect? So sleep, practice time. Another thing I wrote down was mental health. How am I doing just in terms of how I feel about myself? What's my context been like? What are different things that are on my mind that day? There are so many different things that go into being a happy, productive human being. And I think that we sometimes neglect the happy part and we focus just on the productive part. And I really think I make better music when I'm rested, when I don't feel stressed, and when I'm excited about what I'm playing. All right, cool. So the second point is to be intentional. This means, like, when I practice, to structure my practice time, to write down fingerings, to circle parts that aren't sounding as good, or write down dynamics that I'm forgetting, to chunk practicing. Like, just be really intentional. Don't just play through stuff and ask it to be amazing. So there's a real tendency with how I think for things to be actually quite haphazard. And I notice whenever I'm helping my students, I'm really good at helping them to not be haphazard. And I say things to them like, oh, if you miss this twice, don't you think you want to write it down so you don't have to miss it again? Or that bowing seems to be throwing you off. Do you want to write something in your music to remind you of it? Or you've just practiced this 3 times the wrong way and you got it once the right way. What are the odds you're going to play it the right way? Yeah, I'm really good at helping my students be intentional and to kind of like take the frustration out of practicing and make it really just proactive and very problem-solving oriented. And I have to bring that energy into my own practice sessions as well. It's kind of like I get to be both the teacher and the student, and I have to kind of step back and look at what the process is doing to me, how I'm handling it, and how I can make it better, less frustrating, more happy, yada yada. It's a good Seinfeld if you don't know. Yada yada. Okay, and then the third one, loosen up and have some fun. Yeah, when I was trying to do the thumbnail for last week's video, week 7, it was so hard for me to find a image from the video where I was smiling. And I thought, this is bad. Nobody's making me do this project. I'm choosing to do this for myself and for my own growth. And I am so unhappy looking as I'm doing this. And so, yeah, that's something that I really want to be intentional about with all takes going forward. I am playing around with different things. One of them is to play fun music between Beethoven takes. Another is to just have a completely random, totally stupid word that I think of for 1 or 2 pages of the music, so that if I miss a shift, instead of thinking, oh, I missed a shift, I just think that random, really funny, stupid word, and it helps me kind of loosen up, and I keep on going. So yeah, I'm hoping that for most of the takes going forward, I will be a little bit more relaxed. And I do think that that will ultimately result in better music. It may not result in better music right away, but I think ultimately, like the long term, I think that will really help me to play with more ease, less tension, and I guess just kind of have more fun. So let's talk real briefly about goals for this week. I think there are two. One of them is to really focus on evenness in the right hand. This means bow only practicing, and this means bow only practicing with the metronome. I really have to watch my tendency to separate slurs when they're not separated, bow only. If you don't know what I mean, it's just when you play the slur as you would, or the separate bows as you would on those open strings, but you don't do any left hand fingers. So bow only is a really, really useful way to practice. And for me, I find that it kind of multiplies the results. So 5 minutes of bow only practicing feels like 30 minutes of other practicing. It's so effective. The second goal is to continue to address tension by being aware of it and then seeking to remove it and kind of let it go. And I'm really focusing on finding more and more ease as I play, and also having some fun as I play. All right, so if you have made it to this part of the video, well done you. Thank you so much for watching. I am learning so much from this project, and I am also just extremely grateful for those of you who have shared feedback with me, those of you who are enjoying it and joining the channel. It's a brand new thing, and it's really exciting. So next week, same time, same place, more Beethoven. I'll see you then.